Imagine this. You are 17, sitting on a worn-out couch in a quiet suburban living room. The house smells like laundry detergent and microwave popcorn. Cartoon music spills softly from the TV in the next room, where two kids are finally asleep. Your phone buzzes. It is 11:34 p.m. We're running late. Be home a little after midnight. Everything okay? You glance around. Front door locked. Alarm light is blinking green. The baby monitor is hissing with static. You type back. You all good. Kids asleep. See you soon. Smiley face. You hit send. That is the last message anyone will ever get from you. At 12:07 a.m., the parents pull into the driveway of their neatly trimmed two-story home in Maple Ridge, Ohio. The porch light is still on. The house looks calm, untouched. They walk inside carrying leftover dessert and the sticky smell of restaurant bar air. The TV is on. The kids are asleep. The babysitter is gone. Her shoes are by the door. Her backpack is on the chair. Her car keys sit in the glass bowl where she left them when she arrived. The back door is locked from the inside. There is no note, no broken glass, no sign of struggle, just one thing out of place. On the kitchen counter lies her phone, its screen cracked into a perfect spiderweb, as if it had been slammed straight down. The last text is still open. All good. Kids asleep. See you soon. Smiley face. In the next 48 hours, Maple Ridge will go from sleepy suburb to media circus. The story will grip the internet. A babysitter vanishes from a locked house while the children sleep upstairs. Police will chase every theory. Runaway, jealous ex, intruder, inside job. But one detail will haunt investigators for years. On the home security system, at exactly 11:58 p.m., 3 minutes before midnight, there's a sound. Not a scream, not a crash. A voice. A man's voice, calm and low, speaking from somewhere inside the house, picked up faintly on the baby monitor. And then, silence. This is the story of the babysitter who vanished before midnight. Maple Ridge was the kind of town realtors loved to mention in glossy brochures. Tree-lean streets, 4th of July parades, Little League games, and pumpkin spice banners in the fall. If you zoomed in on a map of the Midwest and dropped a pin on normal, you could have landed right on it. The Turner family fit the town perfectly. Ryan and Melissa Turner, both in their mid-30s, both working full-time. Ryan sold medical equipment. Melissa was an elementary school counselor. Their two kids, Hannah and Levi, were 4 and 7. They lived in a cream-colored house on Sycamore Lane, with a swing set in the backyard and a chalk hopscotch permanently etched into the driveway. They were not rich, but they were safe. At least that was what everyone believed. The babysitter, Kayla Brooks, was the girl every Maple Ridge parent trusted. 17, honor roll student and varsity soccer athlete. She lived 3 streets over with her mom, a nurse who worked nights at St. Luke's Hospital. Kayla babysat half the kids in the neighborhood, saved every dollar for community college, and had a reputation for being responsible to a fault. If Kayla's there, you don't worry. One neighbor would later say, "You sleep easily." On Friday, November 5th, 2021, the Turners had plans. A friend's surprise 40th birthday dinner at a downtown bar and grill. It had been on the calendar for weeks. They texted Kayla 2 days before. Melissa, "Hey Kayla, any chance you're free Friday 6, midnight? Just Hannah and Levi, pizza and movies. Same rate as always, smiley face." Kayla responded a minute later. Kayla, "Got it. I'll be there." On Friday afternoon, the weather turned colder than forecast. A gray, damp wind pushed through Maple Ridge, rattling the last leaves from the trees. By 5:30 p.m., porch lights were already on all up and down Sycamore Lane. Kayla arrived at 5:45, slightly early, as usual. She wore black leggings, a big gray hoodie, and beat-up white sneakers. Her auburn hair was pulled into a messy bun. She carried her backpack, heavy with textbooks, headphones, and a half-finished English paper, and her cracked old iPhone. The Ring doorbell captured her walking up, smiling into the camera as Levi flung the door open. "Kayla," he shouted. We got extra cheese. Inside, everything felt ordinary. Melissa gave the usual instructions. Pizza in the oven, bedtime at 9, homework folder on the table if Hannah wanted to color. Emergency numbers stuck to the fridge, just in case. We shouldn't be too late, Melissa said, grabbing her coat. Midnight at the latest. Text if you need anything. Okay? Kayla nodded like she always did. Got it. Go have fun. The Turners left at 6:12 p.m. The garage door hummed closed behind them. The security system beeped once, then again as Melissa tapped the stay setting, locking all doors but leaving motion sensors off inside. By 6:30, the kids were in pajamas, laughing at a movie. By 8:45, they were both asleep. Nothing about that night felt remarkable, not until it was over. At 10:58 p.m., Kayla texted her best friend, Jessa. Kayla, these kids literally sleep like rocks, lol. I'm bored. Jessa replied almost instantly. Jessa, want me to FaceTime? I can help you stalk your crush's Insta in silence face with tears of joy. Kayla sent back a picture of the dark hallway outside the kids' rooms. Caption, SSSHHH, House of Ghosts, call when I get home. That was the last message Jessa would ever receive from her. Downstairs, in the kitchen, the baby monitor sat on the counter next to Kayla's phone. A low hiss of static filling the gaps between the refrigerator's soft hum and the ticking wall clock. In the living room, the TV was on a low volume, flickering a late-night cooking show no one was really watching. Outside, Sycamore Lane was quiet. A streetlight buzzed at the corner. A dog barked somewhere down the block. A drizzle started to fall, tapping against the Turners' front windows. At 11:09 p.m., a car rolled slowly past the house. The neighbor across the street, an insomniac named Mr. Connolly, noticed it from his upstairs window. The headlights moved at an odd, crawling pace, then stopped for a moment in front of the Turner home. Connolly thought it might be a rideshare trying to find an address. He watched for another few seconds, then turned back to his TV. By the time he glanced out again, the car was gone. At 11:22 p.m., the security system registered movement on the front porch. The Ring camera caught a shadow passing briefly out of frame, too close and too fast to make out. No doorbell press, no knock, just a smear of motion, as if someone had walked right up to the door and then away. At 11:30 p.m., Melissa texted Kayla from the restaurant. Melissa, we're paying now. Be home around 12:10. Everything okay? Kayla responded 4 minutes later. Kayla, yeah, all good. Both are out cold. See you soon, smiley face. Her typing pauses in the metadata show she had started to type something else, erased it, then sent the shorter version instead. No one knows what she almost said. Between 11:40 and 11:50 p.m., the baby monitor recorded nothing unusual, just the slow, steady sound of children's breathing and the occasional creak of the house settling in the cold. Then, at 11:52 p.m., something changed. The audio file, pulled later by police from the monitor's cloud app, shows a faint crackling sound, as if the device is picking up interference. A distant thumping. The tick of the kitchen clock grew louder, as if the microphone had been moved closer. And then, at 11:58 p.m., a voice. Male. Low. Too quiet to make out the words at first. Investigators slowed it, cleaned it, and enhanced it. 3 words emerged. You're right on time. What happens in the next 3 minutes is missing. Literally. At 11:59 p.m., the monitor's recording drops out. The app shows a gap, no data, from 11 hours 59 minutes and 2 seconds to 12:01 and 17 seconds a.m. When the feed resumes, the room sounds the same. 2 kids breathing in their sleep. No footsteps, no door, no scream. The Turner's car pulls into the driveway at 12:07 a.m. By 12:09, Melissa is inside, calling out, "We're home." She doesn't know it yet. The girl who texted all good half an hour earlier is gone. Melissa immediately noticed the quiet. Parent quiet. The kind that pricks the back of your neck when something feels off, but you cannot explain why. The TV was still on, volume low. The lamp in the corner glowed warm yellow. The couch pillows were slightly dented, as if someone had just been sitting there. "Kayla?" she called again, shrugging off her coat. Ryan came in behind her, setting his keys in the bowl by the door. The familiar clink echoed a little too loudly. "Kids, okay?" he asked. "I don't know yet." "Kayla?" There was no answer. Melissa's eyes went to the kitchen first. Kayla's backpack sat on one of the chairs, half open, a spiral notebook sticking out. Beside it, on the counter, lay the baby monitor and Kayla's phone. The screen was black. A thin, jagged crack spread from the top corner to the middle, like a spiderweb frozen in glass. "That's weird," Melissa muttered. "She never leaves without her phone." She tapped the screen. It lit up for a second, showing the still open text thread, her own message and Kayla's cheerful reply, before flickering off again. "Maybe she's in the bathroom?" Ryan offered. "Or checking on the kids." Melissa moved toward the stairs. Halfway up, she paused and listened. Silence. Then a soft, sleepy sigh from Levi's room. The children were fine. Hannah lay sideways across her bed, hair fanned out over a tangle of blankets. Levi was sprawled on his stomach, one arm hanging off the side of the mattress. Both sets of nightlights glowed in their usual soft blues and greens. Nothing was out of place. "Sweetie," Melissa whispered, brushing hair from Hannah's face. "Did Kayla come up here?" Hannah stirred, blinked, and shook her head. "She kissed us goodnight," she mumbled. "You're home." Melissa's heartbeat sped up. She checked the upstairs bathroom. Empty. Linen closet. Empty. Guest room. Empty. Back downstairs. Ryan had already opened the back door, checking the porch. "The door was locked from inside," he said. "Nobody out there." They checked the front porch, the garage, the basement. Every door, every closet, every space where a 17-year-old girl might reasonably or unreasonably be. Nothing. "This doesn't make sense," Ryan said, his voice growing tight. "Her car's still outside." That was the moment Melissa's stomach truly dropped. She stepped back into the hallway and looked at the house with fresh eyes. Shoes neatly lined up by the door. 2 tiny pairs, her own flats, Ryan's boots, and Kayla's white sneakers. Socks folded inside them, ready to go but not gone. The digital clock on the microwave clicked over to 12:14 a.m. "Call her mom," Melissa said. Kayla's mom answered on the second ring, her voice groggy from an early shift. "Hey, Melissa. Everything okay?" Melissa swallowed. "Is Kayla home with you?" Pause. Sheets rustling. "No. She's babysitting for you, isn't she?" In the seconds between that question and Melissa's answer, the world on Sycamore Lane shifted. It was no longer a late night with a late babysitter. It was something else, something much worse. Melissa's hand shook as she hit 911. "Maple Ridge emergency? What's your location?" "This is Melissa Turner. Our babysitter is missing. She was here an hour ago. The doors are locked. Her things are here. She's just gone." In the background of that call, on the recording that would later be played on news broadcasts and true crime podcasts, there is a faint sound. A distant, high-pitched buzz nobody noticed at the time. The baby monitor still on the counter. Still connected to a room where nothing and everything had just happened. The first patrol car rolled onto Sycamore Lane at 12:23 a.m. Officer Daniel Reyes had worked Maple Ridge nights for 6 years. His shift was usually car break-ins, noise complaints, and the occasional drunk driver. Missing babysitter calls almost always resolved themselves within an hour. Miscommunication, early pickup, teenage drama. This one felt different the second he stepped inside. Melissa Turner stood in the foyer, arms wrapped around herself, barefoot, still in her going-out dress. Her lipstick was smudged. Ryan paced behind her, phone in hand, checking the front window every few seconds like Kayla might suddenly appear. "Thank you for coming," Melissa said. Her voice had that tight, breathless panic Reyes recognized from crash scenes. She was just here. Reyes took a slow look around. Shoes by the door, kids' backpacks, mail on the entry table. Everything exactly where you'd expect it to be at midnight in a safe suburb. "Walk me through it," he said gently, from when she arrived. They repeated the timeline. 6:12 p.m. departure, 11:30 p.m. text, 12:07 a.m. arrival home. House quiet, Kayla gone. Reyes listened, nodding, glancing around with trained eyes. Any chance she left because of an argument? Phone call? Boyfriend drama? He asked. Both Turners shook their heads. Kayla was solid, Ryan said. She's babysat for us 30 times. She doesn't just leave. Reyes logged the first important detail. Her car was still out front. He stepped outside, checked it himself. A dented silver Honda Civic, registered to Laura Brooks, Kayla's mother. The doors were locked. Inside, a gym bag, a travel mug, a pair of cleats, a crumpled fast food bag. No sign of haste, no sign of struggle. Back inside, Reyes did what protocol demanded. He searched the house. He checked every room, every closet. He opened the washer and dryer, the garage freezer, and the crawlspace hatch in the basement Melissa admitted she hated. He slid open the shower curtain in the upstairs bathroom and felt that tiny spike of irrational fear anyone gets in a dark room alone. Nothing. No open windows, no scuff marks, no overturned furniture. He paused in the kitchen, eyes landing on the baby monitor and the phone. "Whose is this?" he asked. "Kayla's," Melissa replied. "She always keeps it with her. I don't understand why she'd leave it." Reyes knelt, examining the cracked screen. He had been to scenes that screamed chaos. This one whispered something worse. Interruption. "I'm going to call this in as a missing juvenile," he said finally. "We'll get more units, K9, and a detective out here. I need you to stay calm and not touch anything else. Can you do that?" Melissa nodded, eyes already filling. In the baby monitor's tiny green light, Reyes saw his own reflection. This house didn't feel dangerous. It felt violated. By 1:10 a.m., Sycamore Lane was lined with flashing lights. The quiet suburb had officially become a crime scene. Chapter 5, The Girl Everyone Thought They Knew. By dawn, every cop in Maple Ridge knew Kayla Brooks's name. Detective Elena Marsh caught the case at 3:40 a.m., just as she was pouring her first coffee. Missing babysitter, locked house, no obvious exit. She'd worked homicides, domestic disputes, and drug overdoses. Cases like this, the ones that started with "she just vanished," were the ones that burrowed under her skin and stayed there. Her first move was simple. She needed to know who Kayla really was. On paper, Kayla looked almost too clean. No juvenile record, straight A's, soccer team, volunteer hours at the animal shelter. Teachers described her as quiet but responsible, polite, focused. No signs of a runaway case, no fights at school, no history of depression. Her social media painted a slightly fuller picture. A typical teenager. Selfies with friends at football games, pumpkin patch photos, a string of TikToks where she lip-synced to trending songs, followed by 200 classmates, followed by nearly as many. No obvious online predators, at least not on the surface. But Marsh knew better than to trust surfaces. She sat down with Kayla's mother, Laura Brooks, at 7 a.m. in a living room that smelled like coffee gone cold. Laura clutched a mug she clearly had no intention of drinking. "We don't fight," she said, eyes shadowed from a night with no sleep. "We're close. She tells me everything." Marsh raised an eyebrow just enough for Laura to catch it. "Almost everything," Laura corrected herself. "She's a teenager." Kayla's father was not in the picture. He had left when Kayla was 8 and lived 3 states away, remarried with a new baby. Marsh noted that he hadn't returned calls yet. Any threats? Strange messages? People hanging around? Marsh asked. Laura hesitated. There was one thing, she admitted. She mentioned someone calling the house late, just breathing, then hanging up. It happened maybe 3 times over the last couple of weeks. I told her it was probably a wrong number. A prank. Marsh's pen scratched across her notebook. Did they ever speak? Once, Laura said, voice dropping. She said a man whispered. Something like, "See you soon." She thought it was stupid. She laughed it off. I told her we'd change the number if it kept happening. And then it just stopped. Stopped, Marsh thought, or changed methods. When Marsh asked about boyfriends, Laura tensed. There's Tyler, she said reluctantly. They dated for a few months junior year. Broke up at the start of summer. He took it hard. Tyler Reed's Instagram told its own story. Blurry party photos, truck selfies, captioned song lyrics that were mostly heartbreak and anger. The kind of kid who listened to sad country songs at 2 a.m. and felt personally persecuted. Marsh highlighted his name. She had a rough constellation now. Kayla, reliable, smart, a bit introverted, working nights to save for college. Laura, exhausted nurse, single mom, no obvious secrets. Tyler, recent ex-boyfriend with feelings still raw. Unidentified caller, male, low voice, see you soon. Calls stopped recently. Somewhere inside that constellation, she believed, sat a gravity well. Something strong enough to pull a girl out of a locked house without leaving fingerprints. By mid-morning, Sycamore Lane felt like a film set. Crime scene tape fluttered in the cold wind. News vans idled at the end of the block, reporters rehearsing their lines. Neighbors stood on their porches in sweatpants and coats, watching police move in and out of the Turner home. Detective Marsh hated this part. She needed the neighbors, but she knew half of what they gave her would be gossip, not evidence. She started with Mr. Connolly, the insomniac across the street. His house smelled like old coffee and older carpet. Cable news murmured in the background, volume low. He looked apologetic before he even spoke. I didn't think anything of it, he said. If I had, I would have called. Marsh kept her voice neutral. Tell me exactly what you saw. Around 11:10? 15. He squinted, trying to rewind his memory. I was in bed. I looked out, habit, I guess. I saw headlights crawling down the street, really slow. Then they stopped in front of the Turner's place. Make? Model? Sedan, he said. Dark, maybe blue, maybe black. Hard to tell in the rain. Did anyone get out? I couldn't see. He shifted, uncomfortable. Blinds were mostly closed, but the car stayed there, I'd say a minute. Then it rolled off. No screeching, no hurry. Like they realized they had the wrong house. Wrong house, Marsh thought, or the right one. The Ring doorbell footage from the Turner system gave her more. At 11:09 p.m., headlights washed over the front lawn. A small section of a car's front bumper appeared at the edge of the frame for a moment. Enough to show paint glistening with rain, a portion of a headlight, and the shape of a license plate, completely bleached out by light. At 11:22 p.m., the camera recorded the shadow that had bothered Reyes. A blurry form crossing too close to the lens. Frame by frame, Marsh could make out the outline of a shoulder, a collar, the suggestion of a hood. No face, no identifying features. Whoever it was knew exactly where to pass if they wanted to avoid being seen clearly. And then there was the third piece, the inside of the house. The Turners had a basic security package, door contacts, the Ring at the front, and the baby monitor that synced audio to an app on Melissa's phone. There was no interior video, but the monitor's audio was enough. Marsh sat in the audio lab and listened to the enhanced recording for the first time. The technician, a guy with headphones permanently around his neck, queued it up. At normal speed, the voice at 11:58 p.m. was little more than a hum. At 120% volume and with background frequencies stripped away, 3 words took form. You're right on time. It did not sound like a teenager on FaceTime. Sounded older, confident, almost amused. Could Kayla have been on a call? Marsh asked. The tech shook his head. No echo from her voice. No phone speaker resonance. This is direct in-room audio, like someone stood near the monitor and spoke. And the gap? Marsh asked. He pulled up the timeline. See this? 11:59 to 12:01. Zero data. Could be an app glitch, router drop, any number of things. But here's the weird part. He zoomed in on the second when the gap started. The last sound before the recording cuts isn't a voice. It's a click, like someone took the monitor, flipped it off, then back on again. Someone is inside the house. The simplest theory emerged first. An intruder entered, confronted Kayla, disabled the monitor, and then left with her. But Marsh's problem was the same one every online commenter would scream within days. How do you enter and exit a house with all doors locked, kids untouched, and a babysitter gone, without anyone seeing you? That was when she started to wonder if the intruder had come from somewhere the Turners hadn't thought to fear. Not through a door, from inside their circle of trust. On Monday, Maple Ridge Babysitter was trending locally. True crime subreddits picked it up. Twitter threads spun theories in all caps. TikTok armchair detectives paused the Ring footage, circled the shadow, and overlaid their own ominous music. But Detective Marsh did not care about theories yet. She cared about people. She started with Tyler Reed. He met her in a cramped interview room at the station. His hoodie sleeves pulled over his hands, jaw clenched. 17, baseball cap, chewed fingernails. When was the last time you spoke to Kayla? Marsh asked. Like, a month ago? He said. We're done. She made that pretty clear. His social media said otherwise. 3 weeks ago, he had posted a black screen with the caption, "Funny how you can mean everything to someone and nothing the next day." Marsh slid a printed screenshot across the table. "You seemed upset." He shrugged, embarrassed. It was a post. People post stuff. I didn't touch her, if that's what you're asking. Where were you Friday between 6 and midnight? At home, he said. My mom can vouch. She could. Phone pings placed him in his own neighborhood that night. No calls to Kayla, no texts, no late-night drive to Sycamore Lane. Tyler, Marsh decided, was heartbroken and dramatic, but he was not her man. Next up was Jessa Hart, Kayla's best friend. Jessa came in wearing an oversized sweatshirt and tear-smudged mascara, clutching her phone like a lifeline. She talked fast, filling the silence with little panicked laughs. She wouldn't run, Jessa insisted. She talks about getting out of Maple Ridge all the time, but like, in the normal way, college, not disappearing from a babysitting job. That's not her. Marsh asked about secrets, boys, fights, fears. Jessa hesitated for the first time. There was this one thing, she said quietly. She started getting DMs from some rando account a few weeks ago. Like, you're so responsible. Parents trust you, that's rare, weird stuff. No profile picture, just a username. You remember it? Marsh asked. Yeah. Jessa nodded. At Midnight Watcher. Marsh wrote it down. Did she respond? No. We joked about it. She said it was probably a bored dad or some creep, but she blocked it. She told me she blocks anything weird. But Jessa chewed her lip. Then she said something else. That sometimes, when she walked home after babysitting, she felt like a car was slowing down behind her. Headlights on, then off. But she never got the plate. She thought she was being paranoid. Paranoid, Marsh thought, or targeted. Rumors in Maple Ridge grew teeth fast. By Tuesday, half the town had decided Kayla had a secret older boyfriend. The other half whispered about a human trafficking ring prowling the suburbs. Some blamed the Turners for going out at all. Some blamed Kayla's mother for letting her work nights. Marsh ignored them all and focused on the one concrete new thing she had. A handle, At Midnight Watcher. When her cybercrime contact dug into it, the news was not good. The account was a ghost, created with a burner email, IP address bouncing through multiple VPNs. No posts, no followers, only outgoing messages, and only to babysitterage girls in a 30-mile radius. 6 reported receiving DMs. Only 1 had disappeared. Missing persons cases are often a race against time. The first 24 hours are critical. The first 48 are decisive. After 72, statistics start whispering ugly truths. By day 4, Marsh was exhausted and angry. The tips flooding in were increasingly wild. Psychics, dreams, visions. A woman who swore she had seen Kayla serving coffee 2 states over. Amid the noise, one call stood out. It came from a detective in Greene County, 60 miles away. Heard your babysitter case on the news. he said. "You might want to look at something from our files." 3 years earlier, a 16-year-old sitter named Maddie Cruz had vanished from a rural farmhouse while watching two kids. Different town, different family, same nightmare. Kids asleep, doors locked, no signs of forced entry. Maddie's phone had been left on the kitchen counter. A neighbor reported seeing a dark sedan idling near the top of the driveway around midnight. The case had gone unsolved. "We thought she ran off," the Greene County detective admitted. "No online creeps we could tie it to at the time, but there was one weird detail. Maddie's mother had mentioned a string of late-night phone calls, heavy breathing, then a whisper, 'See you soon,' and one more. Their local babysitter Facebook group, the one moms used to trade recommendations, had flagged an account a few months before Maddie vanished. A man posing as a single father looking for reliable sitters for late-night jobs. No photo, no profile details. His username? Midnight Rider. Not the same handle as at Midnight Watcher, but close enough to make Marcia's skin crawl. She laid both cases side by side on her board. Different counties, different police departments, same target profile. Responsible teenage girls with good reputations, trusted by parents, working in homes where the adults would be gone for hours. Same method. No forced entry, kids unharmed, sitter gone. Same time frame, last known contact around midnight. And perhaps the same man, patient, careful, building a hunting pattern in the safest places American parents can imagine. Their own living rooms. When Marsh presented this to her chief, he asked the question she had already been turning over in her head. "If this is a pattern," he said, "how do we break it before he takes another girl?" Marsh looked at the cluster of pins on her board. Maple Ridge, Greene County, a scattering of other reports that suddenly felt less random. "We stop reacting," she said. "We make him think he's found his next sitter." The plan on paper sounded like something out of a TV show. In practice, it was far more terrifying. Marsh reached out to every babysitting Facebook group, every next-door thread, every club chat within a 50-mile radius. Quietly, without public panic, they compiled reports of creepy messages. Late-night DMs offering high pay for one-time sitting jobs. Requests that parents not mention the job to others. Accounts with usernames built around midnight, night watch, or late hours. Patterns emerged. The man was patient, but not as invisible as he thought. He favored certain phrases. "I work odd hours. You come recommended. Back by midnight, no later." Sometimes the accounts disappeared as quickly as they appeared. Sometimes they lingered, circling, waiting for a girl to ignore her instincts. Marsh's team created its own profile. A girl named Sophie, a 17-year-old honor roll student, soccer, and church youth group. A composite based on real local teens, built with stock photos and carefully curated posts. Her mom was a burner account that occasionally posted about being a night shift nurse. They placed Sophie in the spaces he hunted. Local sitter boards, community pages, mom groups. Within a week, she got a message. Username at Night Shift Dad. "Hi, Sophie. I heard from a friend that you babysit. I need someone reliable for a late job this Friday. 2 kids, quiet neighborhood. I'll pay double if you can stay until midnight. Interested." Marsh felt adrenaline spike as she read it. "Ask questions," she told the analyst playing Sophie. "Make him talk." Sophie responded timidly, politely. "Sophie, maybe. Where are you located? Do you know any of the families I sit for already?" The man deflected the second question but answered the first. A nearby subdivision, 20 minutes from Maple Ridge. He refused to give a full name, saying he'd explain when they met. He insisted Sophie come alone, no parents dropping her off, claiming it was less awkward for the kids. Red flags, all of them. Marsh's team traced the account through layers of VPN slop. Somewhere behind it all, they caught a real IP address for a single heartbeat, just long enough to log the general area. Pinged not from the suburb he mentioned, but from a storage unit facility on the edge of town. Friday came. The op was simple in theory. Sophie would agree to the job. Instead of a teenage girl, An undercover officer would show up, wired and backed by a surveillance team. They would see who opened the door. Except there was one problem. He never sent an address. At 10:40 p.m., 30 minutes before the agreed job, at night shift, Dad vanished. Account deleted. Messages gone. He sniffed us out. One analyst muttered. Marsh wasn't so sure, because at 10:58 p.m., almost exactly the time Kayla had texted Jessa days earlier, a new account appeared and sent Sophie a single message. At midnight, watcher, you're learning. So am I. Then it disappeared too. He knew they were looking, but he was still talking, which meant Marsh believed that somewhere under the fear and control, he wanted an audience. It was the storage facility that finally gave them something tangible to hold. They hid it quietly, without sirens, 2 days after the failed sting. Marsh arrived just after dawn, breath fogging in the November air. Rows of metal doors stretched across the lot, each identical, numbered, padlocked, anonymous. The manager met them in a small office that smelled like burned coffee and industrial cleaner. He looked nervous, shifting from foot to foot. You're sure you don't want to just get a warrant and come back? He asked. We have one, Marsh said, sliding the paper across the counter. And we have reason to believe one of your units is connected to an ongoing abduction investigation. The IP trace had narrowed their search to a cluster of 4 units that had been accessed remotely by the same Wi-Fi network the night Sophie received her messages. One stood out, rented 6 months earlier, paid in cash. Name on the contract, Daniel Cross. The ID photocopy looked legitimate at first glance, but the address was false, and the driver's license number didn't exist in any state database. He comes late, the manager said as they walked down the road. Always after 10. Ball cap, sunglasses, even at night. Doesn't talk much. They stopped at Unit 317. The metal door was unremarkable. The padlock was not. It was brand new, high quality, the kind sold in hardware stores to people who worried more than most about what might be taken from them. The forensic techs photographed everything, then cut the lock. The door rolled up with a rattling clatter. The smell hit them first. Dust, plastic, a faint, sour tang of old sweat, and something else, childlike. Inside, under the strip of flickering fluorescent light, was a chillingly organized space. On one side, a folding table, a laptop, a portable Wi-Fi hotspot, and a cheap office chair. On the other, a row of plastic storage bins, each labeled in neat handwriting. Games, clothes, photos. The bins were full of objects that made Marsh's throat tighten. Spiral notebooks with different girls' names written inside. Hair ties and scrunchies. Phone cases. School IDs. Babysitting flyers torn from local grocery store boards. A collage of normal adolescents, stripped of context and arranged like trophies. At the back of the unit, a large corkboard covered the wall. Pushed into it were printed screenshots, social media profiles of teenage girls, mostly from suburbs like Maple Ridge. Arrows drawn in red marker connected some of them. A calendar hung beside it, dates circled in black. Every circled date had a time next to it. 2347, 2358, 002, always brushing up against midnight. In the center of the board, printed larger than the others, was a photo of Kayla, smiling, holding a puppy at the animal shelter. Underneath, in that same careful handwriting, 3 words were written. Right on time. Marsh felt her stomach drop. They still did not know where Kayla was. They still did not know who Daniel Cross really was. But standing in that cold metal room, looking at the stolen fragments of a dozen girls' lives, one thing became clear. This was not the work of a man who had acted once on impulse. This was the hunting ground of someone who had been preparing for years. And Kayla Brooks, the babysitter who vanished before midnight, was almost certainly not his first. The name Daniel Cross turned out to be smoke. The driver's license number on the storage unit contract was fake. The address pointed to a vacant lot that had been empty for years. No tax records, no employment history, no utility bills. Whoever rented Unit 317 had built a convincing ghost. but even ghosts leave footprints. The tech team started with the laptop recovered from the folding table. It was wiped at first glance. No documents, no photos, no browsing history. Just a scrubbed operating system and a handful of encrypted folders. They cloned the drive and went to work. Hours turned into days. While forensics chipped away at the laptop, Marsh pulled at other threads. Security cameras near the storage facility, credit card transactions in the area, any fragment that might belong to a man who called himself Cross. A break came from somewhere mundane. A hardware store. The storage unit manager, flipping through his own mental Rolodex, remembered something. He bought a lock, the man said he wanted one, just like yours, so it wouldn't stand out. The manager pointed Marsh toward a chain store 5 blocks away. Their CCTV system, grainy but functional, gave her what she'd been waiting for. A clear shot of the man who rented Unit 317. The footage showed a tall figure in a dark jacket and baseball cap. He kept his head down, but not enough to hide his features completely. Mid-30s, maybe early 40s. Short dark hair, clean shaven. Thin, pale, with the kind of forgettable face that slid easily into crowds. He paid in cash. No loyalty card. No small talk. Still, it was something. The image was run through every database the state had access to. Facial recognition pinged on an old photo from an employee badge at a regional home security company. Name on the badge, Evan Harper. Marsh read the HR notes. Evan had worked as an installer, putting in alarm systems, cameras, baby monitors, smart locks, in homes all over 3 counties. He'd been written up twice for boundary issues with clients, then quietly let go after a complaint from a single mother who said he lingered too long, asked too many questions about when she was usually out at night. He disappeared from their records 6 months after his termination. But his work orders told Marsh everything she needed to know. 3 years earlier, he had helped install a basic security package in a farmhouse outside Greene County, the home where Maddie Cruz disappeared. And 12 months ago, he'd subcontracted for the company that upgraded the Turner system in Maple Ridge. The baby monitor, the door contacts, the ring camera. Evan Harper had not just studied his hunting ground from afar. He had walked through it in daylight, studying the locks, the blind spots, and the routines of the families who trusted him. He knew where the cameras didn't reach. He knew how to move inside without setting off alarms. By the time Marsh traced his personnel file to an address he'd used for payroll, the apartment was empty. The landlord said he'd moved out 8 months earlier, left no forwarding address, paid in full. With the suspect's name finally on the board, Marsh went back to the night Kayla disappeared and walked it beat by beat, this time with Evan Harper in the picture. The scenario she built was not proof, but it was the first story that fit every unexplained piece. Evan knew the Turners' schedule. Even after he left the security company, he could have kept their address, their installation notes, their access habits. He knew Melissa worked school hours. He knew they sometimes hired sitters for evenings out. He'd seen the fridge calendar when he was inside their kitchen. He knew which windows stuck, which doors stayed deadbolt, which kids slept through thunderstorms. On Friday night, as rain started to fall over Maple Ridge, Evan might have parked his dark sedan at the end of Sycamore Lane and watched. He would have seen Kayla arrive. He would have watched the garage door close, the porch light click on, the Turner's car head down the street. He would have waited. Witnesses put the unknown car outside the Turner house around 11:09 p.m. That gave him nearly 5 hours from the moment the parents left until he made his move. Plenty of time to study the quiet house and its rhythms. Marsh pictured him approaching the front door cautiously, keeping to the edges of the camera's frame. A man who installed these systems for years would know exactly where not to stand. The blurry shadow at 11:22 p.m. was consistent with someone slipping close, testing angles. He might have knocked lightly then. Kayla would have checked the peephole, seen nothing but rain-erased darkness, and ignored it, babysitting 101. Or he might have chosen another route. The garage, the sliding door in the back, a small weakness in the basement window latch that he himself had noticed and never bothered to fix. Whatever path he chose, he knew how to keep the alarm from screaming. He'd watched families punch in codes 100 times. Sometimes they chose the same 4 digits for everything: bank pins, phone locks, security panels. Once inside, he would have been careful. Move like a shadow. Keep his voice low. Let the babysitter see a man who fits the script of harmless. Maybe a supposed neighbor worrying about a car door left open. Maybe a contractor sent by the security company to fix an imaginary glitch. Kayla was responsible, not naive. Marsh refused to let any narrative paint her as foolish, but she was also a teenager in someone else's house, trying not to overreact. If a man had approached her confidently, name-dropping the alarm company, maybe even mentioning the Turners by first name, it would have disrupted her internal alarm differently. Make your target question her own instincts. That Marsh knew was how predators operated. She imagined the conversation moving toward the kitchen. The baby monitor, recording all of it, captured only one clear line. "You're right on time," a phrase that matched the note under Kayla's photo in the storage unit. After that, silence, then the monitor cuts off. Had he reached out and flicked it? Had Kayla? Had there even been a struggle? The lack of noise suggested something else entirely. Submission, compliance born of fear, or perhaps of a weapon Kayla never got the chance to describe. Whatever happened, it ended with a 17-year-old girl walking or being forced out of a house without waking the children. The doors were locked, but locks meant nothing to a man who had built his life around defeating them. Once Evan Harper had a name and a face, every police department in a 3-county radius had orders. If you see him, you stop him. They did not see him, but 10 days after Kayla vanished, a state trooper found something else. An abandoned dark blue sedan, half hidden by snow-dusted branches on a service road near an old quarry an hour outside Maple Ridge. No plates, no visible damage, as if it had simply rolled off the main highway and died. The VIN linked it to a used car purchase made in cash 3 counties over. The buyer's name? Daniel Cross. Forensics combed the vehicle. They found hair fibers, clothing fibers, and traces of soil. And something chilling in the trunk. A folded blanket, a roll of duct tape, and a box of latex gloves. All unused, all carefully arranged. No blood, no obvious signs of a struggle. No Kayla. But beneath the driver's seat, wedged into the carpet where it had slipped and been forgotten, they found a small USB drive. The kind of mistake a careful man makes not when he is sloppy, but when he is rushed. Its contents were heavily encrypted. It took weeks, far longer than internet speculation was willing to wait, but eventually the digital forensics team cracked it. Inside were files sorted into folders labeled not with names, but with dates. Each directory contained screenshots of babysitter group profiles, copies of direct messages sent and received, notes typed in a cold, clinical style. November 5th, the night Kayla disappeared, had its own folder. Marsh opened a document titled Target 11_5. The notes were brief, reliable, known to multiple families, no late curfew, limited online footprint, attached to mother, predictable route home. There was no confession, no play-by-play, just one last line, written after the date and timestamp. Window of opportunity, 23:45 to 0:15. Outcome, successful extraction. The word made Marsh's skin crawl. It was the language of an engineer, a technician, not a man. The other folders hinted at more. Some were labeled attempted, others aborted. 2 bore the word complete instead of successful extraction. One of those dates matched the night Maddie Cruz disappeared. Still, there was a gap, the one detail Marsh had hoped for and did not find. There were no coordinates, no addresses beyond the homes he had targeted, no list of places he might have taken them. The USB was a record of hunting, not of where he fed. They searched the quarry and its surroundings for days. Divers swept the water, dogs combed the tree line, drones scouted from above. They found animal bones, dumped trash, and evidence of teenage bonfires, but no human remains. If Evan had used the area, he would have cleaned it like he cleaned everything else. Meticulous, erased. Months passed. Maple Ridge tried to return to normal. The Turner kids went back to school. Melissa returned to her counseling office, where she suddenly had an influx of parents wanting to talk about anxiety and fear. Ryan installed new locks on every door and, for a while, slept on the couch facing the front hallway. The house on Sycamore Lane never quite felt like home again. Kayla's mother, Laura, left a light on in their own living room window every night. At first, it was for Kayla, so she can see her way back, she said. Later, it became something else. A vigil. Detective Marsh kept the case file on her desk longer than most. She followed every lead. A sighting in another state. A girl matching Kayla's description seen at a truck stop. A tip that Evan Harper had been spotted in a casino 300 miles away. None of them held up. The FBI built a profile that said what Marsh already knew. Late 30s, white male, technically skilled, comfortable in upper-middle-class spaces, possibly working in or around home services. Organized, mobile, able to maintain a facade of normalcy. A man who could stand in your foyer, recommend where to place sensors to protect your family, and simultaneously map out how to exploit every blind spot. His photo, pulled from the hardware store footage and cleaned as much as possible, was eventually released to the public. Tips poured in. His arrest never came. As for Kayla, the official line remained the one Marsh hated most. Missing, presumed dead. Nobody, no crime scene, just absence, echoing in the spaces she used to fill. True crime forums would later spin their own versions of the story. Some insisted Kayla was alive, held somewhere by a man who collected babysitters like living dolls. Some argued she had been murdered the same night and buried in a place search teams never thought to look. Some claimed she had been groomed and convinced to leave, that she had become an accomplice instead of a victim. Detective Marsh knew none of those theories honored the girl who stayed late after games to study, who texted her friend that she was bored, who replied, "All good," smiley face. To reassure a mom on a night out, what she knew and could prove was simpler. A man who understood systems had targeted the one place American parents leaned on their sense of safety. A locked house in a quiet neighborhood. He slipped through the cracks he himself had helped create. He chose girls like Kayla on purpose. Reliable, trusted, expected to blend into the background. The babysitter who vanished before midnight became a case study in how quickly safety can be rewritten. Parents across the state started installing extra cameras, insisting on drop-offs and checking in more often. It brought some comfort, but not enough, because as Marsh drove home some nights, headlights stretching into distant suburbs filled with identical houses, she knew what the evidence on her board really said. Evan Harper, Daniel Cross, whatever name he lived under now, had been hunting for years before Kayla. And men like him do not simply stop. They adapt. They wait. They watch. In some small town, on some other quiet street, another babysitter might be answering a text right now, assuring a parent that everything's okay, blissfully unaware of a car idling with its lights off at the end of the block. And somewhere, in a storage unit that hasn't been found yet, another corkboard might be waiting, its center space reserved. Pinned there, under harsh fluorescent light, a printed photo of a girl smiling in better days. 3 words written underneath in neat, careful handwriting. Right on time. And as always, subscribe and follow Enter the Crime for true crime stories.